Johnny Depp stood silently in the dimly lit exhibition hall of Christie's auction house, his fingers brushing lightly against the edge of a polished glass case. Inside lay a guitar that bore the marks of a lifetime, Jeff Beck's cherished instrument. The wood was worn smooth where Beck's fingers had danced, each nick and scratch a testament to decades of unparalleled mastery. For a moment, Depp felt the world fade around him, his mind drawn back to memories of his late friend. The exhibition had been set up to honor Jeff Beck's legacy, showcasing over 130 items from his storied career. And for Johnny, this was not just a tribute, it was personal. As the soft chords of Midnight Walker played in the background, a song from their 2022 album 18, Johnny's thoughts drifted to their first meeting. It had been a chance encounter backstage at a festival years ago, where Beck, with his characteristic humility and warmth, had struck up a conversation with Johnny. Despite their differing worlds, the two found common ground in their love of music. Beck, a legend in the realm of guitar, and Johnny, an actor with a musician's soul, quickly became kindred spirits. Over time, their friendship blossomed into a collaboration. Beck had been intrigued by Johnny's ability to weave stories through music, and Johnny admired Beck's unparalleled skill and creativity. Together, they poured their hearts into creating 18, an album that felt like an intimate conversation between two friends. It wasn't just about the music. It was about the moments in between, the late-night jam sessions, the laughter over shared stories, and the quiet reflections on life. Johnny could still hear Beck's voice, offering gentle guidance as they worked on a song. Feel it, don't overthink it. Let the music tell the story. The story of their friendship wasn't one of sudden fireworks, but a steady flame that grew brighter with time. Johnny remembered one particular evening in Beck's countryside home, sitting in a room cluttered with vintage guitars and old records. Jeff had handed him a battered acoustic guitar, its strings slightly rusty, and said, "Play me something raw, something real." Nervously, Johnny strummed a few chords, unsure if his rudimentary skills could meet Beck's standards. But instead of critique, Beck had simply smiled, nodding along as Johnny played. "You've got soul," he had said. "That's what matters." As Johnny walked through the exhibition, he paused before another display, a collection of handwritten notes and sheet music. The familiar scrawl of Beck's handwriting brought a lump to his throat. It was surreal to see these pieces preserved behind glass, symbols of a life that had ended too soon. Beck's passing in January 2023 had left an irreplaceable void, not just in the music world, but in Johnny's own life. He'd been at Beck's bedside during those final days, a silent witness to the cruel grip of bacterial meningitis that had claimed his friend. It had been a heartbreaking experience, but Johnny felt a deep sense of gratitude for having been there, able to offer comfort and love in Beck's last moments. The sound of footsteps broke Johnny's reverie. A small group of visitors had entered the hall, their hushed whispers a sign of reverence for the collection on display. Johnny watched as they marveled at Beck's guitars, each one a work of art, each one a part of the legend. He wondered if they truly understood the depth of the man behind the instruments. Jeff Beck wasn't just a guitarist. He was a pioneer, a storyteller, and a friend who had always been generous with his time and talent. Johnny moved to a corner of the hall where a video screen played clips of Beck's performances. The footage was electrifying, a reminder of why Beck was considered one of the greatest guitarists of all time. But it wasn't just his technical prowess that made him extraordinary. It was the emotion he infused into every note. Watching the screen, Johnny could almost hear Beck's voice again, teasing him about his acting career. "You're not so bad with the guitar, mate," Beck would say with a grin. "But don't quit your day job." A faint smile touched Johnny's lips at the memory. Beck had always had a way of lightening the mood, even in the most intense moments. It was that sense of humor, coupled with an unshakable sense of integrity, that had drawn Johnny to him in the first place. They had shared countless laughs on tour, moments that now felt like treasures locked away in the vault of Johnny's heart. As the evening wore on, Johnny found himself drawn to one particular guitar, a battered Stratocaster that had been Beck's favorite. The guitar seemed to radiate energy, as if it still carried the echoes of the songs it had played. Johnny reached out, his fingers hovering just above the glass. "You really gave it your all, didn't you?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. A voice behind him startled him. "He would have loved to see you here." Johnny turned to see an older man, a curator of the exhibition. The man's eyes were kind, and there was a hint of recognition in his gaze. "Jeff spoke highly of you," the curator continued. "He said you had a real passion for music, and that's what mattered most to him." Johnny nodded, feeling a swell of emotion. "He was one of a kind," he said simply. "There'll never be another Jeff Beck." The curator smiled. "No, there won't. But thanks to people like you, his legacy will live on." As Johnny left the exhibition hall that night, he felt a sense of peace. The grief of losing Beck was still there, a dull ache that would likely never go away. But it was tempered by the knowledge that Beck's spirit lived on, in his music, in the hearts of those who loved him, and in the stories they would continue to share. Johnny had always believed in the power of storytelling, and now he saw it as his duty to keep Jeff Beck's story alive. Walking into the cool night air, Johnny glanced up at the sky. The stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if Beck himself was up there, watching over him. Johnny took a deep breath, his mind already turning to the future. There were songs yet to be written, stories yet to be told, and through it all, the memory of Jeff Beck would be his guiding light. In the days that followed, Johnny found himself back in the studio, inspired by the exhibition and the memories it had stirred. He picked up his guitar and began to play, the notes flowing effortlessly, as if guided by an unseen hand. Beck's words echoed in his mind. "Let the music tell the story." And so he did, pouring his heart into every chord, every lyric, creating a tribute that he hoped would do justice to his friend's incredible legacy. But this was just the beginning. As he dove deeper into the creative process, Johnny's mind began to swirl with ideas. He envisioned a project that would not only honor Jeff Beck, but also bring together the community of musicians who had been touched by his work. He reached out to a few close friends in the industry, sharing his vision for a tribute concert. The response was overwhelming. Artists from all corners of the music world expressed their eagerness to be a part of it, to pay their respects to a man who had shaped the landscape of modern music. The concert planning became a journey in itself, filled with challenges and moments of pure joy. Johnny poured himself into every detail, from selecting the set list to curating visual elements that would tell Jeff's story. He worked tirelessly, often late into the night, fueled by a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. The process brought him closer to Jeff in a way he hadn't anticipated. As he listened to Beck's music over and over again, dissecting each note, each riff, he felt as though he were having one last conversation with his friend. The concert took place on a crisp autumn evening, in a venue that had once hosted some of Beck's most legendary performances. The crowd was a mix of fans, musicians, and industry veterans, all united by their love and respect for Jeff Beck. As Johnny took the stage, guitar in hand, he felt a wave of emotion wash over him. He glanced at the sky as if seeking Jeff's approval before